Hey, what's up? My name is Dave, and as you know, I interpret everything. This time I'm going to be interpreting Batman, the 1989 feature film starring Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne, billionaire playboy by day, vigilante superhero by night, donning a cape and cowl and calling himself Batman, protecting the citizens of Gotham City from the slumlords, crime bosses, and maniacal clowns that roam the streets. Like the Joker, played by Jack Nicholson, that lived to kill everyone that he meets by making them smile to death. There's undeniably a few different ways to look at this film, and no matter which side you lean, you're not wrong. Whether you look at it as a genre-defining action film further expanding how Hollywood viewed superheroes, or as an example of multiple instances of iconic characters, visuals, and sequences as a whole, you'd be right. You'd even be correct to say over the years, Batman has not aged as well as you might expect, and narratively, the film is significantly weak. So, with resounding differences in its positives and negatives, what are the key takeaways? First and foremost, 1989's Batman is visually unforgettable. From the appearance of the cape and cowl itself being one of the most iconic looks of Batman, bar none, to Jack Nicholson's Joker. Love or hate his rendition, this Joker is just as iconic as the look of Batman, and in the late 80s was most definitely a figure to be feared. Much of this 1989 film, for a lot of Batman fans of the time period, had only the Adam West TV series to compare it to, and almost everything in Burton's rendition was like taking those characters in that show and revamping them to look and act cooler. And Joker went from a silly prankster played by Cesar Romero to Nicholson's portrayal 20 years later. While he is still zany and he loves his pranks, this time the Joker is a bit more unhinged, and there's a much more palpable threat that looms with his portrayal. Although, in 2024, that threat is hardly felt anymore. Visually, Burton's stylistic, nightmarish landscape of Gotham City is unmistakable, evenly balanced by one of Danny Elfman's most recognizable and iconic original scores he's ever done. On the surface, Batman is a particularly serviceable adaptation that helped birth the superhero craze that we know and love today. The vigilante with a hero complex attitude shared by every further Batman that we've seen in the last 35 years is a staple of his character, proving you don't need all the powers in the world, like Superman, to save the day. Sometimes all you need is a drive to do the right thing. However, technical achievements can only reach so far. Eventually, the technical advancements in the film will slowly force audiences to notice poorly aging graphics and poorly executed writing. Sure enough, even though it's part of the charm at this point, it's hard not to realize how fake the actual city of Gotham appears, as if it's mostly just one giant painting used as a backdrop. One of the shots early on in the film is looking at the shadow of Batman from the sky facing down, and the choppiness of the animation of that shadow clearly made that moment look a little bit too much like a cartoon. Narratively, it's hard not to realize there's not much of a substantial story going on here past the very broad good versus evil stereotype. Jack Nicholson's Joker, in particular, does not seem to have much of a motive behind what he's doing. I suppose, on the other hand, you might be able to say some people just want to watch the world burn, but on the other hand, it doesn't seem like he's that much of a threat. Instead, he just seems primarily hokey, as if he was taking the job of clown a bit too seriously. As I mentioned before, back in the year 1989, his variation probably was terrifying, as it was one of the world's first real views of a killer clown, and it was definitely a step up from the silly 60s Batman version of the Joker. But it's hard not to compare Nicholson's performance to what we have seen ever since, like Mark Hamill's iconic animated persona, or specifically Heath Ledger. Nicholson lit up the screen 35 years ago as the Clown Prince, undoubtedly. But he's had his time to shine. So, on to the rating, where we answer the undying question on where Batman lies. Are the iconic moments enough to overpower those negatives, or are those flaws just too much to bear? Thankfully, the film has far more positives that are hard to ignore. The negatives I mentioned, while obvious at times, are still forgivable and easy to forget overall. My score for Batman is an A-. I may prefer Christian Bale's performance as Batman. Heck, even Pattinson's actually breathtaking. I would be lying, however, if visually I didn't prefer this suit. This is the suit that I grew up with. Yes, there has been adjustments to each suit in each movie, but after all the decades, this is still the suit that pops in my head first. What about you guys, though? What are your thoughts on the original Batman film starring Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson? And of course, directed by Tim Burton. What works for you? What doesn't? Which variation is your personal favorite? Let me know in the comment section down below. And as for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit the like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next review, whatever and whenever that may be. But until then, peace out.